Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fifth week of Obsidian October. This is also the last live session that we're doing for Obsidian October. I hope that you've enjoyed all these previous sessions, and I do hope that you will enjoy the one today. So during the month, we've been looking at how you can get started on plugin development. And I really hope that you've started trying it out yourself. And maybe you've already gotten ready to publish your own plugin by now. Fortunately, um, this series has also been introducing you to these great plugin developers in the community, and they've shared their stories from developing their own plugins and much more. So I certainly hope that you've enjoyed that as well. And I know that you've been working on your creations for the entire month now, probably, and you're ready to submit them. And I'm happy to announce that there is now a submission form that you can apply to. So on Discord, you can find the submission form on if you go to the pinned what was it, the pinned messages, and then if you look at the announcement page, then you can find a submission form over there. So go ahead and submit your plugin, and the panel will evaluate it and review it and look through it, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. So another thing, that due to the 1.0 release and the new theme design, the Obsidian October deadline has actually been pushed to November 13th. So you do have a couple of extra weeks to work on your plugin if you choose to. You can still submit it though. And yeah, so thank you for being part of this journey. And in this final session, we will be looking at how you can be working with files. And Obsidian being a note-taking software, file management is going to be an important part of your plugin, most likely. And after that, we'll take a little break, and then we'll get back to you with our last guest speakers for this series, which is going to be Fibro and Johnny, who's going to talk about the Commander plugin. So stay tuned. Don't leave after this tutorial is over. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. So let's dive right in. So last time, we've been working on this Halloween-themed plugin. And I was hoping to take it to the next step by continuing on it and adding some note-taking features to it. So what I want to do is I have this this vault here with a bunch of notes. And so for Halloween, there's going to be a lot more monster sightings like than any time during the year, right? And I want to be able to track them this year. So I want to be able to log whenever I see a monster out there running the streets. And I want to keep track of what was the last thing I saw and what was the time. Just so I know when I can, when I should stay indoors, essentially. So that's kind of what I want. I have these files here. They're empty right now. But what I was hoping to do is to build some form of functionality where I can kind of append timestamps to these notes. And then I also want to be able to quickly see what was the last sighting. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to do for this tutorial. So there's going to be some updating of files. We need to query files. So you'll be able to experience quite a lot from the API. And yeah, so let's look at where we left off last time. We have quite a few features by now. The plugin is looking really good so far. And what I kind of want to do now is that I want to be able to have a way to quickly write a log, like a timestamp to any of these notes whenever I see that creature, essentially. And one great way of doing that, at least that I like, is using a suggest modal, which is not something that we've covered so far. So I was hoping to do that just now. It's actually not that much code to get started with that. I'm gonna see if I can create a new file here. So I'm gonna call it a suggest.ts. This is going to contain my modal, which is going to show basically a list of all the creatures that I have in my vault. And I'm going to be able to select one of them. So just like we've done in the past, we export a new class here. I'm going to call it, let's say, we'll call it creature suggest. Creature suggest. That's going to extend a class called fuzzy suggest modal. This is a specific type of modal that lets you fuzzy filter the selection that you want to have. This one actually takes an argument here to the actual modal, and this is the kind of the type that you want to be able to select. In my case, I'm just going to do a simple string here. Actually, no. Let's do files here instead. So I want to select based on a number of files, and in this case, you see here that I have a type called tfile. This is a type from the Obsidian API, which you're going to see a lot today. And this is kind of a definition of a file on disk. So I want to be able in this modal to select a file, essentially. And as you can see here, we got some red squiggly lines here. And I can do a quick fix here by adding all the method that I need. As you can see, we need 3 methods here to implement this modal. And somehow I need to return the files, all the items that I'm going to show in this get items. So somehow I need to implement a way to get all the files that I want to select from in this method. The next one here is that I have this tfile type, but I want to be able to match this with a text string, right? So this basically lets me return the text that I want to match on. And finally, the onChoose item lets me essentially select what happens when I select this creature, essentially. So this one is going to be easy. I'm just going to return the base name of the file, which is going to be the last part of the path minus the extension. So let's start with that. That's going to be easy. The tricky part here is how do we actually list the files in our vault, right? That's the tricky part. So if you go on this.app, as you've seen, we've used this.app instance quite a lot in this series. And this time we're going to be looking at the vault object here. This vault object gives us a range of operations that we can do on files and folders and so on. And in this case, we have 2 methods here that I want to highlight. One is called getFiles. This one will return all the files in your vault. That means images, it means notes as well, and basically any file that's in there. But we are most interested in notes right now, which means that I only want the markdown files. So I'm going to use this one. So this is going to give me a complete list of all the notes in my vault. So I'm going to store that in a variable here. This is red because I still haven't returned anything from that method. So what do I want to do here? I have now every single file in my vault, but not all of them are going to be these logs, right? So I need to be able to filter in some way. So I'm going to take all these files, and I'm going to apply a filter here. And what could that be? Well, in my plugin, I decided to let you put your logs anywhere, and I'll find the logs by adding this tag to every monster log, essentially. So I need to be able to filter on all of the files that have this tag that's how I'm gonna find the um, the files that I need. So let's see how I can do that. So we need something in here that lets me look at the content. And turns out that there is actually another very useful object on the app instance, which is metadata cache. So the vault object lets you, query basically disk access. Anything that is on the file system, you can read, you can write, and update, and so on. But when it comes to notes, there's a bunch of information inside the note, like sections, if you have headings, if you have front matter, and Obsidian actually caches this for you, so you can access that more quickly. So you don't actually have to parse the note yourself. And I kind of want to use that to my advantage here, where I can get the cache for a file if there is one. Otherwise, it will read it and parse it in a moment. Let's do that. Let's store this cache of the file. It turns out that this cached object has a few things here. We can look at the front matter. That's going to be parsed YAML for you. So if you want to, you can use that. You also got all the links and sections and all that. But we're interested in tags in this case. So I'm going to continue with that. And this is actually an array of tag cache objects. So I'm going to have to do another, so basically a tag cache here, another level here. And this tag cache has a property called tag, which is a text string of that actual tag. So I want to match that and see if we have a tag called monster log, then I want to filter out that file essentially. That's kind of nice, but I need to add this. I need to return this from this filter function. That should be good. So if this find doesn't find that tag, then it's going to return an undefined, which is going to evaluate to a falsy value. So this is going to filter out all those non-monster log files. So we know that these are monster logs, right? So we can actually return them because this is an array of T files like that. And we still have a method to implement here. For now, let's just do a notice that says that we selected one of these. So let's do the base name here again, just to make it easy. So let's see if we can use this, because now we have a complete suggest modal here. And the next step I need to do is to actually add it to my, just like I've done in the past, I can add it to my app through, let's see. Can never remember if, no, it's wait. I can never remember which one it is. It's this and no, sorry. You don't actually register this one. You open it whenever you need it, essentially. So since it's a modal, we haven't covered modals before. This one, when you actually use it, you open it in the moment. So to do that, we need some form of action. So let's do a ribbon action here, like we've done in the past. What is a good icon for that? Let's do a, I think there is one called scroll. That's pretty fitting. So log monster sighting here. And that's going to take a callback. And here we can then open our creature suggest. There we go. That's going to take an app object. And so now we created a modal, and I want to open it immediately, like that. Now we can go to our Obsidian Vault here, and I can see that I have this scroll icon in the ribbon. If I click that, that will open this modal here with all the names of the creatures that I have in my vault. These are the ones that are common in Scandinavia. So, your miles may vary. You might have other creatures where you live, but these ones are fine for me. So I'm going to select the poltergeist, and that's going to end up showing it up in the corner. Very nice. What else? What else? Well, the next thing we want to do is to actually add a timestamp to this log file, this monster log. And so how do we do that? Let's go back. So we essentially want something here. Turns out that there is actually a pretty good method for this on the vault. So we essentially want to write to this file, and we can do that with a append method here. Let's do that. So this actually takes a file, a T file, and we have that because that's the one that we actually selected. And it takes a string, which is what are we actually going to add to the file. In our case, let's add a date here. So let's do a isostring date. Okay, so just by adding that, we should now be able to write a log to our file. Actually, I want to make this a list. So I'm just gonna prepend this nice hyphen there to begin with. Also, we want this to be a new line. So I want to add it on the last line, basically. So that should work. So now if I add this and I select the Wendigo, then it should have added the timestamp to that file. Very nice. So this is a good step. Now we should be able to start, let's add another one, and it keeps updating, and I can add it to any of these, and it'll just keep appending. So right now, the append method is just adding that text to the end of the file. But if you want to completely rewrite the contents of a note, you also have the modify method as well that you can use. And that will completely replace the content of a note. Okay. So what else? Well, now we kind of had the writing part. So now we're writing data to our logs, which is great. But the next step is that we actually want to, so in my case, I want to be able to tell what was the last cited monster in my neighborhood. So I want to add kind of a little status bar item here down to the bottom right here. So among the list of, so where you can see 5 words, 39 characters at the moment. So I want to add the last cited creatures down here. To do that, I can use there is actually a method on this object called add status bar item. This is actually, doesn't take any arguments. This creates a new HTML element that I can use to populate. I basically get a HTML element where I can put stuff in. And I will be updating this, so I kind of want to have a reference to it. So in this way, I'm going to do like a last citing element. I need to add this as a member to my class here. Citing element, that's going to be an HTML element, something like that. And what else? Okay, so now we have a little item here. Let's actually try it out just to see that it works. So I'm going to add an element here. I'm going to add some text just to see hello from the status. And now you can see it popping up there. So I'm going to replace this with the last cited monster. So let's remove that for now. And the tricky part here now is that I kind of want this to be constantly updated, right? And one way I can do that is to set a timer that I keep looking through my vault every other second to see if there's a new monster sighting. Ideally, though, I don't want to be doing that. I want to be able to react whenever there's a new monster sighting, and then I want to see whether that is the latest one, essentially. So I want a way to be able to handle when that happens. Turns out that the vault also lets you register events, which I'm going to do now. And so if you look at the vault, you have this on method here. This on method takes first a string with what type of event am I interested in, essentially. And in this case, whenever someone modifies a file in my vault, I want to know so I can recalculate the last citing. And that takes a file and a callback here like that. Okay, so what do we do in here? That's the question. So I actually have, let's see, I'm gonna copy paste a little here just so you don't have to watch me type all of this stuff. And I'm gonna walk you through it. So let's see. See if I actually gonna place this. There we go. So what I did right now is there's a lot of code in here. Essentially, most of it is just I'm reading. I'm gonna cover this in a bit. I'm reading the data and I'm splitting it on new lines so I can get all the lines in that file. And I'm using this at method here to get the last file, or sorry, the last line in that note. I'm going to see if that line starts with the hyphen and space. In that case, I'm just going to remove those two characters. That's what the dot slice does. And then I'm going to check to see if the last line here is the last citing. So I'm going to keep a date up here. And I'm going to loop through all the notes. And I'm going to update this last citing whenever I find it. Right? So that's what this for loop is doing. I'm going to have to implement this monster logs, and I'm going to do that next. And then I'm essentially adding this to the element that we created just now, right? So I'm also adding, this is adding a tooltip that we're going to see down in the bottom. So this get monster logs is essentially what we already did in our suggest here. This is our get monster logs right here. So I'm gonna copy that as is. In your plugin, I suggest that you reuse this code instead of copy pasting it. So I'm gonna do get monster logs here. I'm gonna paste that, and I now have that method, right? Up here, I want to take a second to explain this. So whenever I get this modify event, I'm going to get that for every single file in the vault. So whenever I update any file, I'm going to get this event. So I need to first make sure that this is indeed a monster log. Otherwise, I'm just going to ignore it. So that is the second part here. The first part here is something I see a lot of people asking about. And what I'm getting here from the modify event is actually something called a T abstract file. So these modify events can return a modification to a folder, for example. So we need to first make sure that this modify event came from a file and not a folder. So I can do that. I can check if an abstract file is an actual T file by using this instance of keyword here. So this is going to return a Boolean to tell me whether or not this is indeed a T file. But I could just as easily done a T folder here, and that is instead going to check whether this is a folder. But right now, I'm interested in files, so that's what I'm going to do here. And this is monster log. This is a convenience. Let's see. Let's create that one. I actually have it. Let's create that one. Let's create that one. So this is actually get monster. So is monster log. And this is essentially what we have in this in here. So let's reuse that. Put that in this file here. So now we need to pass that file. So let's do that in here. So if this file here is a monster log, then I'm going to return a boolean. And so now I can call that here. I can say that return whether this is a monster log, and I'm going to pass the file there. So this has not, yeah. So I actually need to turn this into a boolean. This is a TypeScript hack, but you can actually do the double exclamation mark here, and that will actually turn something into a boolean. That is a false value that you're turning into a boolean. So that is a little trick there for you. So now that we have that, we have the monster log there, and we down here, we can see that we don't care if this is a folder or if it's not a monster log. Then we just return early here. Otherwise, we're gonna check to see whether the last timestamp is the last cited value. And finally, I'm gonna replace what's in the last citing element down in the status bar, and I'm gonna create a new citing here. So let's see if I save that, and now I'm gonna see if that works. Let's click here. So I'm gonna add a new myling citing. That's gonna pop up there, and now you can see that the myling is the last cited creature that I saw, and that. So right now that's the latest one. If I add another one here, for example, a Wendigo, then you can see that it updates. So that one is automatically updating whenever you're modifying that note, and then we're running this logic to see whether it's the light citing or not. So as you can see, there is quite a lot of stuff going on in here. There is a lot of things you can do with files. There, if you check on the this app vault, you can see a ton of methods here that you can use. For example, you can delete files, you can create new ones, and so on. So even though the kind of the feature that I want to develop is finished now, I would want to highlight a few more things because it's something I see that a lot of people run into. First thing is what we did down here, right? I'm using this cache read function here. Why am I using this one when there's clearly a method called read here? So what's the difference here? Well, the cache read is going to give you a more better performing plugin, because this, if you've already read this file in the past, you don't have to go to the file system again, essentially. But the problem with cached file is that you potentially have an out-of-date T file that you're working on. So let's say that you want to read something from the file system, modify it, and then write back using, say, the modify method here. Then if you're using cache read, then you're potentially modifying based on old content. So if you immediately want to write it back, use the read one. But if this is only for displaying data, then I suggest that you use the cache read method instead. What else? Yeah, so what we're doing here, and get monster logs here, you can see that we're actually looping over every single note in our vault. This is, for big vault, this could be, take a little time. This is cached, however, so it's not super slow. It doesn't have to go to disk necessarily. In fact, you can see here that it doesn't actually return a promise, which means that there's no disk operations going on here. So this is really fast, but still there could be a lot of entries here. So if you know in advance what file you want to look for, then you can use this this app vault get abstract file by path. And this takes a file path to the actual file, and that's going to return that T abstract file for you. And again, when you get this, you need to have the same, most likely you're going to want to do this check here for whether it's T file or a folder, for example, in order for you to be able to use it. So that's a good trick. Another thing I can highlight here is if you can see here that I'm actually passing a string with an actual path within the vault. If you have total control of these paths, it's totally fine. But if these paths are user defined, for example, if you have a setting that lets you, for example, set a path to a template or something like that, then that's going to be user defined, and they can, pass all sorts of strings in there. So if you accept user defined paths, I recommend that you use the normalize path function from the Obsidian API. And what that's going to do is that it's going to clean up that path from the user. It's going to remove superfluous slashes, and it's gonna make sure that it's nice and clean. It's gonna handle cross-platform paths for you, so you don't have to take that into account. So make sure that you use that whenever the user is supplying the path for your plugin. That is pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Obviously, there's a lot more you can explore here when it comes to file management. If you actually look at like I said, if you take a look at the Vault object here, hopefully a lot of these will make sense to you. But yeah, they're all available there, and feel free to explore them on your own. Cool. That is everything I had for this tutorial. To round up here, feel free to explore this on your own. What kind of methods you have? What can you do? What other events can you subscribe to, and so on. And yeah, I'm gonna get back to you in just a little bit. I'm gonna take a little break, get something to drink, and then I'm gonna be back with our guest speakers. And yeah, so stay tuned. I'll see you in a little bit.